In this video, I'm going to demonstrate configuring Shared Memory Communications Remote version 2, also known as SMCR v2. I'm in the Network Configuration Assistant, and I'm in the TCP/IP profile perspective. I've selected a stack, so let's configure it. I pull down Actions, Configure, and the first thing I need to do is enable Shared Memory Communications. Shared Memory Communications is under the Performance and Protocol section of TCP/IP configuration, so I select that, and then I select the Shared Memory Communications section. Now the first screen is for general SMC information, and for the purposes of this, you can generally leave this alone. The default values are fine. You need to go to the Shared Memory Communications SMCR settings and enable SMCR. First thing you need to do is indicate you're going to configure it. SMC defaults to not configure it, and that takes the TCP/IP stack defaults. If you want to configure the property explicitly, you need to change this drop-down from default taken to customize the property. And you can click Enable SMCR. Once you've enabled SMCR, you can also optionally specify the maximum 64-bit memory that's used for buffers. The default is 256 megabytes. And you can also change the minimum keep alive interval, which is 300. We're going to leave these defaults alone. For SMC v2, you do not need to do anything in this Rocky Express table. For SMC v2, you specify the Rocky Express elsewhere, and I will show you that in a minute. Now for SMC v2, you also need to set Enterprise Ids. Remember, in SMC v2, ZOS will only communicate with other hosts that have the same Enterprise ID. So at least one Enterprise ID has to be configured to use SMC v2. So we come to the SMC v2 settings tab and click Configure Enterprise IDs, and we're going to create one. So I'm going to create a new Enterprise ID. And an Enterprise ID is simply a name that links together hosts in the same enterprise. It can be up to 32 capitalized letters or numbers or a few characters. So I'm going to create an Enterprise ID here for my Northern Data Center. So we'll call it datacenter.north. And you can optionally put in a description that shows on the GUI. So, something like that. And click OK. All right, so now I've enabled SMCR and I've configured at least one Enterprise ID. The next thing I need to do is specify PFID IDs. For SMC v2, PFIDs are associated with OSA interfaces. So in order to configure the PFIDs for SMC v2, we need to go to the interface configuration and we need to associate PFIDs with specific OSAs. In this configuration, I have one OSA interface configured, so I'm going to go to it, modify it, and the Additional Properties tab, you can see that by default, the interface supports SMCD and SMCR. But to support SMCR v2, you need to check this box to indicate you're supporting it, and you have to specify a PFID and an SMCR v2 Rocky IP address. So here's where I specify the PFID of the Rocky interface that's associated with this OSA for SMC v2, and I also have to give it an IP address that has to be in the same subnet as the interface's IP address. If it's not in the same subnet, NCA will check that and prevent you from making that error. So for this example here, I'm going to choose a Rocky IP address that's not in the same subnet. When I click OK and tell it to proceed, NCA is going to warn me, nope, you can't do that because it's not in the same subnet. So let's fix the error. It needs to be in the subnet of the interface, which is 10.1.2. So I'm going to change this to 10.1.2.11. So now the Rocky IP address for this interface is 10.1.2.11 and its IP address is 10.1.2.1. I click Proceed, and that updates anything that references that interface. And I've now configured SMC v2. Now let's look at the TCP/IP configuration that's generated from what we did. So I'm going to go to the stack again, click Install Configuration Files, and on this panel I can look at the configuration file and preview what's going to be in it. You can see here is the interface statement for the interface, and here is the SMCR parameters that we just configured. SMCR is enabled. The PFID associated with this OSA for SMC v2 is 0010, and the SMC IP adder is 10.1.2.11. Also, the Enterprise ID we specified is also here. It's part of global config, and it's here, SMC ID datacenter.north. I could have had multiple ones configured here if I wanted them. So now we are configured for SMC v2.